Good morning, this is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is a pre-market webinar for the morning of Tuesday, the 10th of March. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing and learn from it, transfer it to your own charts, and I'm not here to issue trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers. Charting the Markets are subset.com. It's published on YouTube after a delay of 24 hours. All right, great. We saw a big rally yesterday. I'm going to be talking more about this when we get to the RTH charts, but we've seen a big rally, and that was fueled, of course, by this point, Trump calling up CBS and suggesting that the war was pretty much over. That doesn't appear to be the case at all. Apart from anything else, I think well, as I was saying on the crypto pre-market webinar, you can start a war by yourself just by attacking. An end to a war tends to involve talking to the other side. And no one's talked to the other side yet, and the Iranians, who are still talking to other people, and the press are basically saying that, as far as they're concerned, they're settled in for a long conflict, and they are going to be continuing to attack, and they're going to continue to close the Strait of Hormuz. So, at the moment, really, very little has changed. So, the new leader of Iran, I would also note, has just lost his father, mother, wife, and one of his children to the American and Israeli attacks. So he may not be in a particularly good mood to negotiate. So where are we now? Well, we've seen the strong rally here, and we've got a series of potential level tops here or topping formations forming. And I'm thinking that given we've got bearish stats today, we had bullish stats yesterday, of course, but given that we've got bearish stats today, I'm thinking we're probably going to retrace half at least of this move down, and may well deliver more. Although the flood of bullshit coming out is kind of having a calming effect on the markets, i.e. it's giving a lot of hope that this is going to finish, although I'm not sure that hope is justified. We'll see. All right, so we've got a nice looking potential little double top here on ES, and we've got potential topping action on NQ as well, and a very nice looking little level top on RTY. YM, the 6-minute buy signal that it fixed yesterday morning, has reached the possible near miss target, and we've got another very nice looking potential little level top. On DAX, we have a potential level top as well. No buy signal here. ESTX, we didn't have a buy signal yesterday, but if we'd had them, they would have made target. Doesn't look so much like a double top here on ESTX, but really I'm leaning towards a retracement here. Nikkei had a nice break up yesterday. We will see how that goes, but this is potential topping action as well. We will see. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. Okay, now the first thing to say is we actually closed on looking at the Dire daily chart. We actually closed on Friday just above the 3SD lower band. So when we saw a very big gap down on Sunday, first thing I was saying, I was chatting to my friend Matt, and as we tend to DM a lot, and he was saying, well, obviously, this looks like a disaster. And first thing I said was, this would be a major open below the 3SD lower band if it continues. Because actually, what we did was we then came back up and opened slightly above the 3SD upper band after a pretty large rally from there, and then we went down a bit and then went up a lot. But we've only actually made it back to the 3SD upper band. But the thing is, when you see a large decline coming, and we could see a large decline here, although we haven't seen one yet, when you do see a large decline, it tends to respect the lower bands, and when you tend to get below the 3SD lower band, you tend to get a rally pretty soon. And so what I was talking about was that rally, and that rally is all we've seen so far. And of course the Bollinger Bands are now widening. You can see that they're widening a lot on Dire. So if we are going to see a big decline, we could see that in the next few days in a way that looked like a bit of a long shot on Sunday night. So here we've basically seen a big rally that's only got us back to the 2SD lower band, but we are increasing because the bands are widening rapidly now. We're getting to the stage where we could actually start seeing some much bigger declines. And of course, we've got a head and shoulders here, which is broken down with the target in the 449 area, I think. Looks like 450 here, but more accurate view is on the 15-minute here. And sorry, how I written that in? Okay, head and shoulders is broken down with the target in the 449 area. Actually, that could be 450. I will have a closer look at it. All right, so that's where we are, and we have no particularly good reason to think that anything is stopping on the Iran war at the moment. It may be that the US and Israel are going to stop doing as many strikes, but as Trump is still saying that, if Iran continues to attack and close the Strait of Hormuz, then we will massively increase the number of attacks. There's nothing actually suggesting at the moment that that's going to change. That may change, and maybe they'll start negotiating with the Iranians, and maybe the Iranians will be interested in talking. But there's a lot of maybes. All right, looking at the ES chart again, we've got the 3SD lower band that's slightly above 6,600, but obviously we went significantly below that on Sunday night. We've seen the big rally. Wasn't surprised to see that. We had the open, which was back above the 3SD lower band, and we saw some retracement from there. But really, had we opened up on Friday night, on Monday morning, where we were at the low on Sunday, we actually made this target on Sunday night. So we got down to the 65.50 area. So we've seen a big rally. That's not got us back close to the daily middle band, but it is a nice rally. And to be honest, that rally may be finishing, or we could continue back up to the daily middle band, which I've got in about the 68, 60 area. But really, I'm thinking, given the stats today, if we could be either doing an ABC with the B today down and then a C wave upwards, which might get us back to the daily middle band, or we could just fail straight from here. We will see. In terms of the hourly chart, not really seeing anything. In terms of the 15-minute chart, no divergence. What I would say is we've broken down from a head and shoulders here. For that head and shoulders to fail, we would need to get over 69.52. All right, looking at the Qs. Qs have been the strongest here. Again, we came back up over the 3SD lower band. But the thing is, the bands haven't expanded much here because the action on NASDAQ has been much more muted, and we're actually made it back up to a close slightly above, I think, marginally above the daily middle band yesterday, but effectively a close on it. This would be the obvious area to fail if it's going to. Nothing on the hourly chart, nothing on the 15-minute chart in terms of divergence. Could this be a potential double bottom here? Yes, it could. So going to be watching that with interest. It doesn't need to be, but we are finding a lot of support in this range here so far. A break below that would look interesting. Okay, on Dia, obviously we made it up to the 2SD lower band. Nothing much to see on the hourly here, but we did have an hourly RSI 5 bicycle fix here on Dia, which has made target, and we have got a weakish RSI 14 bicycle here, which has fixed. So this is the only bicycle we've got really on the hourlies. So I'm pretty sure we haven't got one on IWM. Nothing to see on the 15 minutes. The main thing is here that we have broken down from head and shoulders. For that head and shoulders to fail, we would need to get over 489.03, which is still a significant distance away. Although I would note that is below the daily middle band at the moment, because that is at 491. So if we see a rally back to the daily middle band, that could actually fail the head and shoulders. All right, let's have a look at IWM. And on IWM, again, we actually opened below the 3SD lower band. This was going to be a mile below the 3SD lower band at the open yesterday, had we opened up at the Sunday night levels. I think we've got a flag here. I think that flag is broken down. It's not a clean break because we actually come back up and closed over the band support, but we did come back up and backtest this broken rising wedge support from the April low. So wondering if that's going to be a resistance, thinking that might well be resistance. The RSI 14 sell signal on the daily has now reached the possible near miss target. Looking at the hourly chart, no divergence currently. 15-minute chart, nothing to see either. We will see how it goes, but I'm leaning towards the downside today, and honestly, there's not much reason I can see at the moment why we won't be going back to revisit Sunday night's lows. Okay, looking at the DAX daily, we have got a possible RSI 5 bicycle brewing here. We're seeing a nice rally. We almost made it back up pretty much made it back up to the 2SD lower band. I haven't got the 3SD lower bands marked in here. We could be forming, I was talking about the possibility we'd come down to this area and form a right shoulder. We may be forming that right shoulder now, in which case this may have a longer time to operate because we need to go a bit higher. But I am wondering about that. This was the level I was talking about for a possible head and shoulders, because we don't really have a topping pattern here on DAX yet. So I'm wondering about the possibility of that right shoulders forming here, but I would say that for it to form, ideally the right shoulder high would be in the 24.8 area, which is still a long way above. All right, looking at Nikkei. Nikkei actually opened down 7% on Sunday night. So we made a decent rally, closed significantly below the 2SD lower band. But the bands are starting to expand. Do we have a topping pattern here? Well, I was talking about this area here as a potential head and shoulders. We went a bit below it, but I am wondering about a possible head and shoulders forming here. Really, this would be the right shoulder here. Ideal highs already been touched. If we broke down here, I'd be drawing this as head and shoulders. We shall see. All right, great. Let's have a look at DX. DX, as there was talk, DX has been rising on the Iran war, and yesterday was falling. We've got a double top here, which is broken down, but obviously, if this is broken down on the news, basically the Iran war was ending, because a lot of people seem to be convinced it had ended yesterday, but that isn't true. But if this is on that basis, then we may well find this rejects directly back to the highs. I've got a matching double bottom, which is breaking up on euro. Not a lot to see on GBP. USD JPY, we've broken this rising support slightly, but that may or may not be significant. I'm still wondering about a retest of the high at 162 that you can't see on this chart because it's too far back. USD CAD, this is really interesting because this should have been going up with the dollar and it hasn't been. And we've actually got a perfect bear flag channel here, which is definitely interesting, and it looks kind of ready to break down here. I'm wondering whether it's going to do that. I'm confused at this not following the dollar really here, but obviously Canadian. The Canadians have their own issues, so sometimes it won't be the case. And of course, when it's going down, this is actually the value of the Canadian dollar going up against the US dollar, because this is USD CAD, not CAD USD. For some reason, the Canadian dollar has been strengthening against the US dollar when it should have been weakening. That may well continue to be the case. All right, let's have a look at ZB. ZB, head and shoulders is broken down. We've seen a nice rally. Not thinking it's anything more than that at the moment. We're not close to failing the head and shoulders, which would require a move up to, I think, 117.17. We've got a weak 6-minute sell signal fixed. ZN, equally nice rally, equally not much reason to think it's more than that. Actually, this looks rather like a bear flag forming. We will see how that goes. Now, CL, we saw a big decline yesterday, and we go all the way back to 80 from 120. But a lot of that, certainly the last $15 of that, was on Trump basically saying the war was ending, and that really was rather premature. This decline to 80 was basically on the basis that the Strait of Hormuz is going to be reopened, and at the moment, the Iranians are very firmly stating that they're going to be keeping it shut. So we will see. That could change today. But the Iranians have been talking about oil going up to 200. Now, I think that's a little high, but I do think if this conflict extends further, then we may be doing a retest of the all-time high at 147. We will see how that goes. But at the moment, is the upside over? Not necessarily. What I would say is what I was saying on the bigger picture webinar on Sunday is that this might be kind of overblown because the Strait of Hormuz closing won't affect oil production or deliveries as much as people are thinking it would. And also, there are strategic oil reserves across the world which can be used, which potentially could keep the market relatively stable for a few months. But so I think the initial reaction may be overblown, but certainly the war is not over, and the Strait of Hormuz is not open. And currently, no one's consulted the Iranians about doing either thing. So I'm thinking we may well be heading higher again. I'm wondering about certainly from a pattern point of view, we do have flags here, and just going to look at those flags quickly. So let's just open those up quickly and go through those flag targets. Now we almost made it to the flag target on WTIC. And let's see. All right, bear with me a moment. Okay, looking at WTIC, the flag target was 126, retested this high here at 126.42, and we made it up to just under 120. I was watching that high on Sunday night. I'm still wondering whether it might make that target. In terms of heating oil, the flag target was a new all-time high. We almost made it, but not quite. In terms of gas oil, the flag target is actually a retest of this high here at 412. We're a long way short of that. But equally, those are still valid targets, and I'm still wondering about them being made. I am skeptical about how much of a real crisis there is on oil yet. And I was thinking that prices might come down a lot, and they have. But that doesn't mean this is over by any means. And while you can declare war on somebody alone, declaring peace, that really requires something from both sides, and we haven't seen that yet. HO, big decline, kind of looks like a bear flag, on CLs at the moment as well, and on RBOB. NG, we've seen a big move down. Hasn't invalidated the IHS, which has broken up. We would need to get down below this low here in about the 2.88 area to deliver that. This looks like a little double bottom. The 60-minute sell signals reached the possible near miss target. I'm thinking we may well see a 50% retracement of that today as well. GC, this still looks like a short-term bear flag forming. And SI looks like a bear flag, and Palladium looks, this could be a double bottom actually, but the bigger picture looks like a bear flag. On platinum, this looks like a short-term bear flag after a bigger bear flag. And HG broke down pretty hard, but didn't make it to the target at the flag low, which I've got at about the 5.61 area. I'm still thinking it may well make that target. And at the moment, we're stalling at the monthly pivot, which is the obvious place to stall. All right, KC, a double bottom has broken up with a target in the 308 area. 60-minute sell signal is fixed. I'm wondering if we'll see some retracement and could be potentially a retest to the low. SB, we've broken up from the double bottom. That's actually only got a target like the last IHS in both cases. But the last IHS had a target at a retest of the December high, and this one also has a target at a retest of the December high. We will see how that goes. All right, looking at CC. Nice little rally here. Potential inverted head and shoulders might be forming. CT. Double bottom is broken up with a target in the 65.95 to 66.15 area. Lumber, nice little rally here. Might be an IHS forming. I'm wondering about another potential leg up. All depends whether it can get past the monthly pivot at 596.50. On wheat, we saw a stiff retracement yesterday, so I think at least some of this move up is that matched what we were seeing with oil. So I think some of this move up is about the potential interruption to fertilizer supplies from the Strait of Hormuz, although I'm not entirely clear why that is. We will see. Corn, seen that retracement too. Soy saw that retracement too. CL saw that retracement too. So the fact that the Strait of Hormuz is starting to close makes me wonder about high retests at least. Live cattle, I am wondering about a potential next leg down. It's still thinking about it, and I'm wondering about the same on live lean hogs as well. That could be A, B, C, and wondering about that without any strong evidence one way or the other at the moment. All right, let's have a look at questions. I have actually. The first thing he did when I left was he locked me out of the private Twitter feed. So I don't know. So George was asking if he's still updating the private Twitter feed. So no, he locked me out of it immediately. We were putting a friendly face on the breakup, but actually we haven't spoken since. We'll see. All right, great. In that case, I think that's a wrap. Everyone take care, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.